T.O. is trying to make the NFL comeback. So you know what? I sat back and said, okay, I have formulated my top 5 teams for Terrell Owens. I'll count you down from number 5 to number 1. But just for context's sake here, this is T.O. saying he wants to be the first active player in the NFL who is also in the Hall of Fame. Never has been done before. A coach has done it, but a player has not. So that's why I'm doing this segment. I'm not just kind of pulling it out of thin air here and saying, hey, let's talk about a Terrell Owens comeback. No, this is him actually saying this, and he wants to be back in the NFL. And I'll tell you what, we also have a picture of him doing the driveway sit-ups, and we'll show that later throughout this segment. The guy's ripped still, by the way. He's carved up. He looks like he is ready to play in the NFL. And like I said before on this program, the NFL is watered down, particularly the AFC, especially in terms of talent. So T.O. could certainly pose an argument to be a wide receiver in the NFL. All right, folks, are you ready? My top 5 teams for Terrell Owens. We'll start things off with number 5 on my list, the Houston Texans, and I've got them here for a couple of reasons. Number 1, they've been rumored around the Dez Bryant sweepstakes, so I wanted to put Houston here in terms of a team, perhaps for Terrell Owens as well. They've got a good amount of salary cap space, the 5th most, in fact, in the National Football League. Roughly around $35 million. So they can spend if they want. Now, let's take a look at the depth chart here in terms of wide receivers. They got DeAndre Hopkins, who I think is as good as they come at the wide receiver position and has played really well in recent seasons despite really bad quarterback play. Talking about you, Brock Osweiler, Case Keenum, the list goes on. Will Fuller, he's a nice spark plug as well. But let's say Deshaun Watson leads his team into the red zone, right? Outside of DeAndre Hopkins, where's Deshaun going to throw the football? Lamar Miller has shown that he is slowing down at the running back position, so don't even tell me you run the rock with Lamar Miller. And don't tell me Deontay Foreman either. You insert Terrell Owens. He's your red zone guy. And I think there could be a very real argument that T.O. could produce better than Dez Bryant at this point. In terms of red zone ability, going up and catching the football, muscling yourself with opposing cornerbacks and defensive backs in general. So I've got the Houston Texans here, and outside of Hopkins and outside of Will Fuller, what, Braxton Miller is going to catch the ball in the red zone? Bruce Ellington? Sammy Coates, who they picked up off of waivers? No. So I think the Texans would be a viable option, and for a guy who has not played it down since 2010, talking about T.O., I've said it before, and I'll say it again right now. He'll be a viable option at wide receiver there, especially in that red zone. And I also have a feeling like Bill O'Brien will get along with T.O. There he is doing the sit-ups there in the famous driveway press conference. I mean, he looks like he's ready to go ahead and tape some workout videos for CrossFit or for boot camp or something like that. This guy's ready to rock here in the NFL. I'm telling you that much, ladies and gentlemen. So you guys may recall that infamous press conference. And Bill O'Brien, by the way, back to him. He has worked with old veteran receivers before. Brandon Lloyd, Chad Ochocinco. So why not T.O. as well? All right, let's go to number 4 here on my list, and we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, a reunion of sorts. Of course, T.O. played with the Eagles back in 2004 and 2005. And by the way, as I go through all these teams, folks, let me know if I'm just absolutely crazy for thinking that T.O. could actually make a comeback in the NFL. If you think I am insane, hit me up, and we may feature your comments live here on the broadcast. But for the Eagles, back in 2004, let's just look at this stat line here. I'm going to humor you guys with this. 77 receptions, 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns. He made plays. Can he do it 14 years later? I don't know. He didn't really make a large sample size back in 2005, by the way. Had his fair share of injuries. Only played in like 7 games, so I'm not going to talk about the stat line there. But a full season in 2004 with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, my reasoning. The depth chart for Philadelphia. There's Alshon Jeffrey. Had a good year, by the way, in 2017. Nelson Aguilar has been progressing as well. After that, there's a bit of a drop-off here. I know there's Mike Wallace in town, but he's a speed guy without speed. So you really can't utilize Mike Wallace anymore. Although he did show some flashes there at the Baltimore Ravens last year and the last couple of years in general. But the depth chart for Philadelphia at wide receiver, it's not all that compelling after Alshon Jeffrey and especially after Nelson Aguilar there. So, yes, the Eagles are in the worst salary cap position out of all 32 NFL teams. Think that's okay. Really don't think T.O. is going to be all that expensive. Might be even a veteran minimum. At this point, it's not going to be about the money in terms of T.O. making a comeback in the NFL. It's going to be about being in the NFL again and having an opportunity to actually produce there. So, hey, we got a commenter here from Roland. Hey, Cam, you in Dallas ready for me to co-host? Well, I'll tell you what, Roland. Got 2 tickets right here, my man, and there's an opportunity for you to win these. So we do thank you for watching the program right now. We'll have more details on how you can win these tickets in the comments section. So if our fantastic behind-the-scenes team here at Chat Sports could be sure to let Roland know how he can win these tickets, we'll get that done for you, Roland. Thanks for tuning into the program, and hopefully I'll see you here at the AT&T Byron Nelson. Appreciate you tuning into the program there. All right, we'll get more details for you soon, Roland. So continuing along here with this TO segment and the Eagles. I actually think the Eagles are in a good position, by the way, to repeat as Super Bowl champions because they haven't lost all that many pieces, and they really have a fantastic front line on that front seven and et cetera. Really like that offensive line, like Jay Ajayi a lot, but maybe T.O. is that last piece to the puzzle there for the Philadelphia Eagles to make that big-time repeat, because in the salary cap era in the NFL, folks, it is difficult to repeat as Super Bowl champions. You can't just sit back, be complacent, and sip the green Kool-Aid, if you will, and expect to be champions yet again. You got to make some changes. You got to make some moves, and I think T.O. could make some sense. So we got Philadelphia there at number 4 on my list. Let's go to number 3 for my top 5 teams for Terrell Owens. The Indianapolis Colts here. Ton of cap space, number 1. Major need at wide receiver, number 2. I mean, guys, reason with me here. It's T.Y. Hilton, and then it's Ryan Grant and Chester Rogers. So, like, we're talking about a guy, number 1, in Chester Rogers, who's very unproven. Number 2, in Ryan Grant, a guy who failed a physical with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, whether that was on the Ravens side of making mistakes or if it was with Ryan Grant, up for debate. Then you got KJ Brent as well. Like, not exactly a compelling wide receiver number 2 for the Colts here. I know they drafted Deion Kane, but still, just imagine an Andrew Luck to T.O. connection there down the field. I think that's pretty compelling stuff, ladies and gentlemen. So I think this would be an interesting move here. I like how the Colts are actually shaping up on the offensive side. I had big-time concerns about that offensive line going into the offseason this year. They got Anthony Costanzo at left tackle, like that. They re-signed Jack Mewhort, important. Missed some games last year, but he's a good player when healthy. You got Ryan Kelly, the center from Alabama, coming back from injury from a year ago. And then, of course, you draft Quentin Nelson. So the offensive line is shaping up to be pretty solid. Yeah, they got to address the running back position a little bit. I'm not a big Marlon Mack guy myself, but they got Eric Ebron, Jack Doyle, showed some good flashes a year ago as well. Now, Eric Ebron, is he a big-time red zone threat? Not the biggest. Jack Doyle, not the biggest either. How about T.O. at 44 years young, catching passes from Andrew Luck in the red zone and in the end zone ultimately? We'll see what happens. A lot of cap space with the Colts, like I said. So they have no reason not to spend. So there you go, Indianapolis at number 3. Let's go to number 2 here. The Seattle Seahawks check in as number 2 on my list. And I mentioned this earlier in regards to Dez Bryant. This is a team that brought in Brandon Marshall for a visit. So they are obviously desperate for veterans at the wide receiver position here. Yes, there's Doug Baldwin there, great wide receiver, solid WR number 1, if you will. Number 2, though, it's Tyler Lockett and Marcus Johnson, who they got via trade with the Eagles, and maybe Tanner McAvoy. Like, as you see, there's a common theme as I go through all these teams here. There is a need at wide receiver. There is a drop-off on the depth chart, especially after their wide receiver number 1. Now, unlike the Colts, the Seahawks, a little more strapped here for salary cap space, but they're actually not in as bad of a situation as they were earlier in the offseason. So Seattle makes some sense to me here, although in general, I really don't know what they're doing with their team. Like, Richard Sherman's gone. Michael Bennett is gone, so there's a bit of a reset, if you will, on the defensive side. You got an offensive line that can't pass protect for its life. Russell Wilson is just, basically a sitting duck behind that front five there. So I'm a little confused in terms of what Seattle is going to be like in 2018, how they're going to perform. But if you want to help out Russell Wilson, first of all, get a better offensive line. But number two, get a couple of good wide receivers and don't just leave it up to Doug Baldwin. Oh, by the way, Jimmy Graham's no longer there, so it's like, help the guy out, talking about Russell Wilson here. So Seattle's at number 2 on my list. My top team for TO. Any guesses, folks? Here it is. The New England Patriots. There you go. I have a feeling here, work with me, that Bill Belichick and TO will get along. Kind of like Bill O'Brien and TO could get along as well. This would be a classic Patriots move. Let's take a look at the old grizzled veterans that they brought in before. Brandon Lloyd, Chad Ochocinco. Do you remember Albert Hainsworth? Harris Rubenstein, reporter there for the Patriots Report. Like, come on. If the Patriots don't at least look at Terrell Owens, they're insane. At least let the guy work out. Does it cost you any money at all to just bring in Terrell Owens, let him work out, see how he can do in his route running, and go up against a couple of the New England corners like a Stephon Gilmore or McCourty, whatever the case may be? Give it a chance. I think it makes some sense here. And, Tom Brady, I feel, could utilize T.O. pretty well. And maybe, just maybe, kind of a weird narrative here, but could take some attention away from Rob Gronkowski in the red zone. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I know the Patriots have Chris Hogan there. I almost said Kevin Hogan. Said it a million times before. Not Kevin Hogan. Julian Edelman as well, coming back from injury. And then Danny Amendola is gone. Brandon Cooks is gone. So some turnover there on the offensive side. Why not continue that turnover, but actually, add a solid player that I think could make some noise in the NFL in Terrell Owens. Maybe I'm just overly nostalgic about all this, folks, and be sure to let me know if that is the case. But I got the Patriots there at number 1.